Hello, YouTube. I was skeptical about talking about this topic because I feel like it's just so common, and I'm not the type to, put down the new generation. I'm not about that because at the end of the day, they are a reflection on us. And when I say on us, it's not necessarily you as a parent, but us as a generation. So my son is a very good kid, I must say, as far as he gets good grades, he does what he's told for the most part, but it's never like I have to force him most of the time. And so one of the things, every parent is different. Some parents are controlling, and I try so hard to not be like my parents because my parents were controlling. They really were. Right on up until even after I moved out, my father was very controlling to the point I had to put my foot down. And I always promised myself I would never be like that, which I'm not. And my son is very grateful for that. You know, he doesn't really get out much, but when he does, he'll go to a Sweet 16 or he'll go to a party. And most of the time, he'll, you know, the party will be done at 12 or 1, and, he'll come home. So he's never gotten into any trouble. He's not in any gangs. And I really thank God for that. But the one thing, and you parents could comment, like, and subscribe, with teenagers, you could kind of get a sense of what type of person they're going to be. And so one thing about me, I hate selfish people. I'm not a selfish person. I've never been. And yes, I am an only child. And there's a stigma that we're selfish people. And I'm not, right? So I'm in the shower and the UPS man knocks on the door. The package, I'm screaming like, who's at the door? Da, da, da. He answers the door, and the package is not for us. It's the UPS man made a mistake. I don't know what happened, but we end up with the package, and the type of person I am, right? I gave it to the person that it belonged to. That's me. My parents didn't have to teach me that. I just know to be that way because I know if it was my package, I would want somebody to give me my package. And we're lucky enough to have neighbors like that. Every time we order something, they always have our package. Always. There's only one time my son didn't get his package, and I try to teach him, try to order it on a day you know you're going to be home. Sometimes it's hard, like with Temu, it's terrible. Like, you could order something today, they'll tell you 14 days. And then the day that they're going to give it, they'll email you that morning, like, oh, we're going to give it today. So 99% of the time, our neighbors will get it, right? And they'll hold it for us and they give it to us. One particular time, my son didn't get his package. And so I was like, oh, wow, and it was like, I think he said like $200 worth of stuff that Shein didn't give him. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's unfortunate. So basically, he didn't want to give the package to the people, or better, he was like, oh, I'll do it in an hour. I'm watching something. Like, his iPad he just loves his iPad, right? So he's like, oh, I'm watching an episode of something. When this episode is over, I'll give it. I'm like, no, you need to do it right then. And like with him, he don't do it. Like if I tell him to do something, if I don't get on his case, he won't do it. So I'm like, why are you being like this? Like, this is somebody's package. And I'm not going to lie, like, I was going to leave the package in the lobby. But when I saw Macy's on a package, I was like, oh, this might be a Christmas gift. I forgot, it's December now. Some people, they get their, oh. So I did my own gel nails, guys. And one of them came off. Wow. Okay. So yeah. So basically, with this package, it had the Macy's logo on it. So that's what made me go up the steps. Luckily, the person lived on the first floor, but it's different from our building. So our building, the first floor is when you walk in, but for the other building, I had to walk up steps. It wasn't that many steps. It was like less than a flight. I want to say like 3 or 4. But I had went up. I didn't realize I went up to the second floor. So then I came back down, and then it said D and F, but it didn't say E. So I knocked on the door to make sure that person got their package, and I said the person's name, and the guy was like, "Yeah, I appreciate you." So hopefully he, whatever, but made sure it was the right address and everything. But that's just how I am. Like, I always think of the other person. And in my younger days, I wanted to be a shrink. And it's interesting to see someone's personality form. Personalities are often formed when someone hurts them. Or like me, I've been through hurt, but I turned that hurt into happiness. Like, I feel like if you've been hurt, you should still treat people good because you know what it feels like, right? So I had controlling parents, so I'm not going to be a controlling parent, right? But whether as other people, they'll like copy behaviors. Even people in friendships, like, I told y'all about previous friendships in my life and everything. And I have to take a step back. Like, this person is like this because people treat them like that. But that's not an excuse, And that's what I would, that's what I try to teach my son. Like, treat others the way you want to be treated. Because karma is real. And I was like, the fact that you don't want to give that person your package, somebody's going to feel the same. Because karma is real. He's like, oh, well, I didn't get my Shein package. I said, see, that's why you didn't get it. Because of an attitude like that. If everybody thought the same way, if everybody felt like, oh, this is not my package, I'm not going to give it to them. And you just throw it in the garbage or throw it in the, that's somebody's package. Somebody paid for that. That's somebody's money. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's different if you're a person who don't order anything ever, and then so you're not gonna care to, but you're a person who orders online. You should understand, like, okay, this is somebody's package. They done been waiting for this. Like, it's just not right. The rightful thing to do, it's not like, it's across the neighborhood, or it's literally, it wasn't even across the street. It's the next building over. And you don't want to give the person their package. But I said all that to say this, and I'm talking to my parents. What about your child's personality don't you like? This is parent talk. It's just, it breaks my heart, because if this is how he is at 16, how is he going to be at 26? How is he going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just so, and that's just one example of how selfish he is. But in general, I don't understand selfish people. I don't. I really don't, because it's like, why don't you care about others? Why? Now, yes, sometimes you do have to be selfish. Like, a perfect example is, if you're a mom who you always make sure your daughter's hair is done, right? You're always taking her to the salon to get it done. And so now it's your birthday. So instead of taking your daughter to get her hair done like you normally do, let's say if you're the type of mom that your daughter gets wigs, she get weave, you're spending $200-$300 on her hair on a monthly basis, which I think is excessive, but in today's times, most of these girls are spoiled, right? it's okay as a parent to be a little selfish for your birthday and say, you know what, I'm gonna get a wig or a weave or treat myself and, you know, and thing. And this month, she'll just have to get some money from her dad or, you know, whatever. But I'm gonna be a little selfish to treat myself for my birthday, right? Just using that as an example. Or, another perfect example. I cook all year round, right? So if I have to cook for Thanksgiving, I don't cook for Thanksgiving. I'm going to tell y'all right now what I had for Thanksgiving. And comment, like, and subscribe. And I'm just giving ideas for quick meals. I know Thanksgiving is over, but this is just an idea for my bachelorettes out there. And I should have, like, I didn't take a picture or a video because I didn't want to be the one to show off food that we all eaten. But a perfect example of cooking without cooking is a rotisserie chicken. Rotisserie chicken is already cooked, right? So it's always in a grocery store. And Food Bazaar is funny because they had it the day before Thanksgiving. So they had it the day before, and I got two. I still got the first one is damn near gone, but I still got another one. And so that's what you want. You want a meat that's already done, and guess how much it was? $8.99. So rotisserie chicken, stovetop in a box. Stovetop is not the best. It's better to make your own stuffing, but if you're a person that's just trying to make a quick meal for just you and your child or you and your kids and you don't feel like all that cooking, stovetop. Jeffy's cornbread. Yes, Jeffy's cornbread. Cranberry sauce, sweet potatoes in the can. There's nothing wrong with in the can. Yes, I put syrup in it. Yes, I put cinnamon in it. My son made the mac and cheese. It was very well done. And so, what is that right there? That's 6 dishes. That's 6 stuff. Rotisserie chicken, cornbread, cranberry sauce, stovetop, candied yams. Can I get to the yams? But it was 6 things because I remember my son was like, how much stuff we had? It was 6. So, yeah, cranberry sauce, cornbread, stovetop, mac and cheese, rotisserie chicken, and something else. But anyway, that is a small meal between you and your child, whatever. Most of the time I go to friend houses, or one year my uncle invited me. Another time I went to my parents, but I don't really like going to my parents because they complain. They don't eat seasoned food. Yes, I know. Are they black? I don't know. But they do not eat seasoned food, and so particularly my father, he's very annoying, so I don't like going through that. So I rather just hang with him the day after, and that's what we did. The day after we saw Wicked, the movie, didn't like it, but that's what we did, and we went shopping. But so I said all that to say this, that it's a little selfish, right? Because I wasn't going to cook all that food and it's just me and one other person. You know, I'm a bachelorette, I'm single. I feel like even if I did have a husband, I feel like I still would, if I have to do everything, I'm still not going to do everything because it's a big feast. I feel like if I was to have a big dinner, I would definitely do a potluck because there's no way I would just sit there, and I can't see myself like making 8 and 9 and 10 dishes. It's just, that's too much for one person. That isn't fair, you know? So, yeah, you know, so, yeah. But, yeah, so that's a little selfish. to say, yes, I'm still going to give you food. You have to eat, but it doesn't have to be 10 dishes. You know, it's going to be something like stovetop is done in 5 minutes, is something quick. You know, cornbread was easy to do. You know, cranberry sauce, the yams is, you don't really have to cook it. It's just something to warm up and put together. You know, so that's a little selfish, right? Like things of that nature. You know, so I just hope that one day that, you know, my son grows out of it. You know, so most of y'all might say, oh, he's just a kid, whatever, he's only 16. But I know for me, my character traits formed in my teenage years, and certain things changed, but I'm the same way. Like, I speak up for myself. I hold myself accountable for a lot of things. You know, I was never that type of female or person to be like, oh, it's their fault. You know, if I'm in a relationship, yes, I might vent out, but I could take accountability to know, like, no, those, you know, it was red flags, and I knew better, you know. And I was like that when I was young too. So even when it came down to academics, I was never good at math because when I was in 6th grade, I did not take it serious. I thought it was a joke. I never paid attention, and I remember laughing with my friends, and instead of sitting there paying attention, we made fun of him because he was African. And I remember that because I didn't take math serious in the 6th grade, and talking to my kids now, make sure you take it serious, because 6th grade, that's when it starts to get real. You know, elementary is, you know, whatever, they passed you, but middle school is serious. And if you don't take middle school seriously, you're going to struggle in high school. You don't want to struggle in high school, right? And then you end up, you know, having to take the math A Regent 3 times. Luckily I took it 3 times, and that was it. But, you know, it's important to pay attention in 6th grade, because that's when you start learning the math. You know, I didn't take that class serious. By the time I got to 7th, I was struggling. 8th grade, I improved, and luckily the teacher, he was a decent teacher, but I still struggled because of what I didn't learn in 6th grade. You know, so, and I knew that from when I was little. Always took accountability for that. You know, and that's what I try to teach my son, like taking accountability for stuff. And you have adults that's like that too. They like always want to blame the other person, and it's like, no, it's your fault. Like, it's on you. You know, apologizing and meaning it. You know, you have a lot of adults who they don't apologize, and they're wrong, but they're never gonna tell you that. That's a sign of immaturity. And it starts from childhood. It starts from teenage years, you know, and even before that. You know, they could be, you know, oh, a big one is this. You could confront the person about lying. They don't say they lied. They be like, they get defensive. It's like, you lied. What are you getting mad for? You mad I caught you? Like, lack of accountability, you know? Yeah, but comment, like, and subscribe. Message to my parents. You know, what character trait can you say about your kids that you don't like and that you wish you could change? You know, and a lot of people who don't have kids or whatever, especially teachers, they'll be like, oh, you know, if this child is this way, then their parent must be like that. That couldn't be the farthest of the truth. My parents are completely religious. I am not. I have a real relationship with God, and I pray, you know, and so that's total opposite. I'm not judgmental. I give people grace. I don't automatically assume the worst of people. You know, the only way I would assume the worst of somebody is if they assume the worst about me. So if they're constantly picking on me and we don't have a good rapport, then yes, I'm going to reciprocate energy, which is not always mature, but yeah, if you always being negative to me, yeah, but in general, I'm not like that, it's not until I'm not a good person to lie to, so yes, when you do lie to me once, I'm gonna always look at you sideways, so that kind of thing. But yeah, comment, like, and subscribe. Let's talk. Parent talk.